Hi there. My name is Seth Wright, and I'm the composer behind Project Hiraeth. Really grateful that you're here to check this out. Hopefully, you're tagging along because you saw the Audio Kinetic blog post, or maybe you heard about Hiraeth from a friend and you'd like to know more and like to hear more. So, looking forward to jumping into it. We're extremely proud of this project and what's come together, and think we have something really cool, really evocative here that I hope, if nothing else, can spur some discussion about what can be done and maybe how this kind of music template and this approach to music design can help us advocate for more adaptive scores, right? For music that does a better job of bridging that gap between game music and film music, right? Music that's really closely tied to what we see on the screen. And all right. What I want to do here is not dive too much into actually what Project Hiraeth is, but rather just show you a little bit about the project and what's going on. If you're interested in the long form introduction, believe me, I have that for you. It is on the Audio Kinetic blog. It is very long-winded and very thorough, and I hope at least my mom will make it through the end of that blog post. All right. So jumping in here to Project Hiraeth. What we're looking at here is, of course, our WISE session. We do have Unity and Unreal scripting available for everything we've created here. The idea is if an indie studio wanted this score in their game, we could plug it in and have it fully functional for them in under a week. And I'm pretty proud of that. I at first thought that was a little bit of a boisterous claim, maybe not actually reasonable or possible. But after seeing some of the work that Guy did, putting together some scripts for this, I'm sold. I think it's possible. Not a lot of what we did in Wise is really all that innovative. However, I am rather proud of the nested state system that we wound up using. I kind of came up with this. I didn't realize I was doing anything cool. I genuinely, I didn't know enough about the program to realize I was being innovative. But what I wound up doing was creating a system where a series of questions determines what kind of music we hear in the game. So, for example, when you load up, the what type of music state group is the first thing that needs to be answered. And if we select menu, and of course the interactive music system is playing at this point. If we pick menu, then suddenly we hear something. And that's because when menu is selected, the game asks which menu. And well, we don't know right now, so it defaults to pause, of course. So what we're hearing right now is pause music for Hiraeth. Ignore my unused channels over here. For the overall tone and sound of the game, we wanted something really heavy, something emotional. I wound up settling on kind of this gritty fantasy feel when I was crafting the music and determining how these tin music environments would shape up. I'm glad I did that. It wound up being something that, even without the visual medium, even though we're still looking for that game that might be a good fit, it makes us feel something, which I'm excited about. So, when the player loads into the game will want to know which environment we're in. So let's say we're in environment 1. Then it will ask us, okay, well, what time of day is it? It's daytime. And finally, it'll ask us to set the environment state. Are we AFK, away from keyboard? That means the music will gradually dwindle down. No, that's not us. Beauty queue is when the player sees something or perhaps is exploring something particularly beautiful. The game can call a beauty state, and the music will grow and become more lush. Short means we'll just hear short music snippets. That can happen perhaps when you're just loading into a zone, or maybe a zone transition, or if the game developer doesn't want to commit to exploration music, which is constant environment music. Now, there are tweakable levels of silence that go on here. However, I have those turned off right now just because we're demoing. So let's leave the menu and jump into environment 1. Hiraeth was recorded live on November 17th, 2018 with a 40-piece orchestra in Rochester, New York. Of course, what you're hearing now is a hybrid between samples and what we recorded live. I think just about everybody is doing that these days, and it really resulted in something that I think sounds pretty stellar. Like I mentioned, with Wise, we were easily able to incorporate a day-night state. So whenever the game tells us that night is approaching, Wise will determine a musically convenient time to go ahead and transition us into nighttime. And I really intentionally gave this space. I didn't want to force this. Day-night is not something we need to quickly fade out and get real quickly into, because I wanted to avoid any rough transitions. So this will take its time, because nighttime doesn't happen quickly. And there it is. Now we're into kind of the mysterious nighttime ambience here. Again, I also want to mention what you're hearing. These are not linear music segments. Everything was imported in stems, and we did a great deal of horizontal resequencing, vertical remixing. All of that, of course, is taking place here. Basically, the long story short is you won't hear this again. This won't repeat. At least for a while. And I know I'm just giving you a wildfire tour. I'm moving really quickly through it, but I do want to show you a little bit of the combat system that I put together for Hiraeth. So let's go ahead and tell the game that we're moving into combat. Now there are two different combat queues. We're in combat 1, and it's going to default us to combat 1 gameplay level 0. So what we'll wind up getting is this kind of chugging low strings. And that, since we're at level 0, that's just going to keep going. That is not going to stop until the game says, okay, we're at level 1 now. Let's go ahead and settle into a nice little groove. There are 3 levels of intensity, so I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of... actually, what I want to do is I want to show you our cinematics. So I took several games, but one of them was God of War, was a real big example of this, something I drew inspiration from, because God of War has a very intense combat system, where at any moment you might jump into a cinematic. So I was thinking, well, how can I do that with a game that doesn't exactly exist yet? So what I created are 3 cinematic cues: cinematic beatdown, cinematic emotional, and cinematic intense, that can be called and transitioned to in under 2 seconds. So if the game calls cinematic intense right now, within 2 seconds, we'll get, there it is right there, the cinematic intense. So we can now be in an in-game cinematic. And we can get out of that just as fast. It resulted in a system that feels quick and intuitive and I think pretty natural. I'll show you our cinematic emotional as well. One of the things I was most pleased with about Hiraeth overall is that we got some really killer performances from our soloists. jump back to gameplay level 1 here. So back in the fight. And now maybe we'll go back to our pause menu. And maybe the player says, all right, I want to fast travel to another environment. So we'll get to here, environment 2 here. Environment 2 is a lot of fun. This is kind of our creepy dungeon environment. I had a lot of fun putting this together. It's very sound designy. And of course, this is just a quick and dirty introduction to the score. So unfortunately, I don't have time to go into as much as I'd like to. We have 4 environments in the game. There are 2 combat systems that I just showed you. The second combat system, Combat 2, works completely in tandem with Dramatic 2. Dramatic 2 is one of our 2 drama systems, which is for dramatic conversations or anything that's not combat but has high stakes. Can be used for that. We also created a fully produced main theme, which is really cool, and you can hear that on my website or on the Audiokinetic blog post. Like I said, the music is mine, but the idea is not. Guy Whitmore had the initial idea for this, and then this crazy idea that we can create these wise templates that we can then fill with new music to incredibly streamline the process. It's a really cool thing, and the way he talks about it, the passion just shows on his face, and I definitely recommend checking out some of his talks at the Audiokinetic Adaptive Music Symposium or at the Game Developers Conference. The stuff he's doing with templates is really incredible. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're, if nothing else, intrigued by this project. Please do reach out to me with your questions. I would love to talk to you. I would love to show you some more of the project and hear your thoughts, your comments, your concerns, your critiques, any of it. I'm very, very interested. Thanks for listening.